Welcome back to Soccer Talk Live, everyone. Don't forget, send those tweets to @SoccerTalkLive, email to soccertalklive@foxsoccer.com. Still hanging with the #1 Winter Olympian of all time. Debbie, does it get weird to keep hearing that?
Sounds nice.
It does. It's got a good ring to it, doesn't it? Well, so, I mean, speaking of that, #1 Olympian of all time in speed skating, I know we talked about how speed skating didn't have a lot of attention on it. And do you think that your success in speed skating, kind of like, you know, soccer wasn't too big when I was growing up, and Pele coming over, now David Beckham coming over, has changed soccer forever. Sure. Do you think you've changed speed skating forever?
I think I've changed the sport within the sport. And I think, you know, it's all about timing, right? So luckily the games were in 2002. Luckily I was performing well and people were able to see me, and NBC gave the attention, you know, that I think we needed.
Well, I mean, it already crossed over to the World Cup within, you know, days of you doing something.
I mean, internationally, the sport was always very, very, you know, it was much bigger than it is domestically. And even now, it's much bigger internationally. So, I don't know, it was about timing. It was about, you know, obviously a little bit of luck. But I'm grateful. I love the sport. I still think it's one of the greatest sports in the world. And anyone who's ever seen it live knows just how exciting and how amazing the sport can be. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned a good friend of yours, Michael Phelps, who you guys have equal respect for. We just called him a freak for how amazing he is.
Yeah.
He calls you a freak for how incredible you are. How tough is it to be that freak, to be #1 and stay #1? How do you be on top that long with everyone gunning for it?
And I think that's amongst any athletes, the ones who are the most consistent time over time at a time to do well and always on top, those are the ones who I think you have to have respect for, because they're the ones who have to adapt. They're the ones who have to change, and they always have the target on their back. So, like for me, you know, I won my first World Cup race in 1998, and then basically for the next 12 years, I skated against 3 generations of Koreans, 3 generations of Chinese. They were, you know, they had come and gone, and by the time I got to the ice rink in Vancouver in 2010, when I got on the ice, we have about 60 seconds before the gun goes off, and I'm coasting around, and I look in the coach's box, and you know, I'm very calm, I'm in the zone. I look over, and I'm like, wow, I skated against that guy, that guy, that guy, and that guy. They're all coaches. I skated against 80% of the world who are now coaching. So, and I'm still on the ice, and I'm young. So I started, you know, I went
at a very young age.
I went to my first world team when I was 14 years old, and that's when I was captain of our team. You know, I picked it up really quickly. So.
That moment when you got the silver, I mean, you know, in 2010, which was, you know, back in February, 3 cycles of this. I mean, what was that like to go through, win the silver, and to watch these guys sit on the sideline that are out of the game?
Well, this race specifically, I don't know if you saw it, but like a half lap before, I was trying to pass that one Korean.
Yeah.
And we got tangled up, and that's when I lost all of my speed, well, almost all of my speed. And then after this race, that's when I thought 2 of those Koreans would have been disqualified anyway.
Yeah.
So I mean, luckily they actually had fallen down, and you know.
Well, you mentioned you see those gaps when you go to make your
I knew
move.
there was going to be a bump there.
You can see it a lap or 2 in advance that you're going to have your chance.
And I was talking, like, when an athlete is totally in the zone, you know, sometimes you hear about Jordan saying that, you know, when he shoots, he knows exactly it's going to go in before it leaves his hands. Same thing in my sport. You know, when I was like in the zone, I could see a pass that I would make a lap before it would happen, a half lap before it happened, even if there was no space at the time. So I would say, oh, okay, in about a lap, this guy's going to do something different. He's going to go out he's going to swing a little bit wide, and I'm going to cut in. That's going to be my hole, and I'll be able to just shoot right through it. So
that's amazing.
That's a cool thing about sports, is, you know, is you have that type of.
Well, being so busy, you said you're fanatical. I mean, you're training. You know, you have a 24/7 job. How'd you find the time to become a soccer fan in all of this? Because you said you love the game.
I've always been a soccer fan. I've always been a soccer fan. And I think the coolest thing about soccer now was this past World Cup. I think for me, and you guys may think differently, but for me as an outsider, looking at the sport, I saw for the first time, I think, domestically, as a nation, people were saying, hey, this is a really, really cool sport. People knew about it, but people were actually, you know, they were being true fans about it. They were buying the jerseys. They were supporting. They were going online. And they were actually, you know, they were chanting. I mean, like when I was saying on the phone, you go to Koreatown here during the World Cup, and people are they're going crazy about it. So to see that, and to see a sport, I think that, I think the reason why I think it's so cool is because I see similarities between short track, where we were a small sport, and you guys were not a small, you guys are a big sport, small sport in the United States, but then finally being recognized. I just think that's cool, you know, because in the most widely publicized, you go to Italy, they have a newspaper that's only soccer. I mean, it's amazing, you know?
Well, speaking of getting recognized and having time to do something, you took your first break, you said, in your entire career and decided to go on Dancing with the Stars.
Right.
I mean, that was, I give you a lot of credit for that. That's a serious move because a lot of us would never show how bad our dance moves are on TV. But the competitor in you, what'd you do? You went and won the whole thing. Boy, what was that?
First of all, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And second of all, I had no idea how hard it was truly going to be. And then by about halfway through the show, that's when I realized, okay, I better do my best to win this thing or I'm never going to be able to live it down. I mean, literally.
My buddies will crucify me.
Cremate me. I mean, it would be really bad. So I loved the show. I had a good time in the show. It taught me a lot about myself.
Did you see some parallels to you know, I mean, some of the coordination in your feet and skating and trying to dance?
None.
None. Zero.
Zero. It was so different for me. You know, you're supposed to count when you dance, right? There's different rhythms and tempos. And I just never did. I was just more about the feel. So.
Oh, I give it to you. And you and Julianne Hough winning. My mom is forever an enormous fan of you for that. You're gonna have to sign some afterwards, or she's gonna kill me after the show. But you know, I mean, your book, a lot of these charitable organizations that you're getting in your career has a lot to do with helping out people to follow the same path. And we have a really cool segment with Temaris Lane doing the same, where she gets down in downtown LA. Well, what a great piece, and to be there, Time Warner and Fox Soccer Channel donating their time and their money to give them the fields. How important is it for the young kids to have a place to go, you know, do what they love to do?
It's very important. It's very important. I mean, for me, I found sport at a young age, but luckily for me, and if I didn't find sport, I would be in a totally different path. So I think all kids should have the ability to play sports, and they should have it integrated some way if they're physically able to play sports in some way, shape, or form. So. It's an amazing thing, and you know, it's something that I've been passionate about myself and the things that I've done, my charitable organizations, and it's all about inspiration, man. You got to find motivation and inspiration from somebody, and if we can be the ones, that catalyst to cause these kids to be on the right path, towards the positive path of doing something better, then that's all the more reason why we should be doing so.
Well, I'm sure your career has made a big difference for a lot of them. We have some of the people that it has made a big difference that have questions for you right now. Joe, what do we have?
We do. Emma from New York, she notices that you're very confident on the ice, obviously, which is vital to any athlete, but also in your personality away from competition. You're a confident individual, and she wonders, have you always been this way, or is it something that you developed because of your success in sport?
Well, and you mentioned that it was tough growing up. I mean, you had to go through a lot of things to become the athlete you are today. So is it because of that confidence?
That's what, you know, my book has a lot to do with that. And I think my book really outlines and focuses on a lot of the insecurities that I had growing up as a kid throughout the sporting, you know, throughout the early stages of my career, and how I wasn't confident, how I had a lot of self-doubts, and had a lot of, you know, times and issues with myself and self-conflict that I had to come head to head with my own fears and say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do so. And this is, I'm going to take, you know, basically take the bull by its horns and be the one in control and try to control my own destiny. You know, there's no guarantee I was going to go to the games and win a gold medal, but the things I could do in preparation, the steps in order, were going to allow me to be able to walk away, win, lose, or draw, with my head still held high. So, I mean, confidence, I think, comes from not just doing well. It comes from, I think, putting in the right work and the preparation. And I don't know if I'm a confident person walking around, but I feel confident in my abilities. And I think that that's what sport has taught me, and those life lessons I've learned, that anything truly can, you know, you can accomplish. And that's kind of the theme behind the book, is that, look, man, everybody has different level dreams. Not everybody wants to become an Olympic athlete, but we all have Olympic level dreams. But in order to do so and reach those goals, you have to put in the work. And if you do so, anything's possible.
Well, that confidence has worked out. Thanks so much for coming in. Congratulations for your success, and good luck with everything, depending on what you go on to after you maybe win a couple more gold medals. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Thanks to Apolo Anton Ohno. Don't forget, his book, Zero Regrets, hits the stores on October 26th.